Okay, welcome everybody to our summer session of Introduction to Homeschooling in Alberta. This is for the 2023-2024 year, and we are so happy you have made time for us this evening, and hopefully we can give you a bit of confidence and a lot of information of the questions that you want to know about. So this is presented by Alberta Homeschooling Association, and I'm happy to have three of our board members here. So we have Cynthia and Golda, and I think Krista. So we're just gonna briefly tell you how we got into homeschooling and how many years we've been at it, and maybe one of the best things that we love about it. So I'll start. I'm Judy, and I got into homeschooling when my oldest was struggling in grade 2. He had a learning disability, and he was not reading yet, and he didn't like school. So I thought, okay, I'll try this homeschooling thing, and we have never looked back. So I have 5 kids, and my last child is going off to university this fall, which is my last parent orientation and all that. So I'm really excited. And the biggest thing I like about homeschooling is that our family closeness and the siblings closeness. I think they have remained best friends because they haven't been graded as we go. So that's kind of our quickie journey. Cynthia, do you want to go next?
Yeah, you bet, Judy. Yeah, welcome everybody. It's so good to have you all here. My name is Cynthia Fair, and I am from Medicine Hat, Alberta. And I was one of those panic parents who was kind of thrown into homeschooling. My oldest son came home from Christmas holidays and said, I am not going back. Can we homeschool? And just a few months after that, my youngest said, Mom, I'm staying home too. I don't want to go to school either. And it was actually the youngest one that had the most struggles with school, massive school refusal. And so it just took a lot of the pressure off of trying to get out the door. So the chaos of the mornings was a massive benefit. But also, like Judy said, just the connection with my kids. I got to see them like from sun up to sundown. And as overwhelming as that sounds, and maybe it was in the beginning, all of a sudden we just found just this, flow to things and just peace and calm in our home that we had not experienced prior to that. And we had many amazing educators in our travels, but they took me by the shoulders. It was them that saw the behavior in my son and said, Mama, take him home. You can do the best job. And that's not always the case with public education, but it was in ours. And I'm so thankful that we did that. So we have been at home for about 6 years, going on strong. And yeah, so good to meet you all. Hope you're all doing well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Okay, on to Golda. Golda, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was just starting the camera. My name's Golda. I live up in Girouville, Alberta, which is near Peace River, so northern Alberta. I've been homeschooling since my son was in the middle of grade 3. I took him out of school because it wasn't going very well, and he had post-traumatic stress disorder. And I had been a principal of that school when I took him out. So I started homeschooling that year, and he's going into grade 9 this year. And I found it I found it really rewarding, actually, to switch from kind of a more traditional ideology or traditional method to a more unschooling method throughout the years, because he did better. He got more interested in learning. And that's one of the things I love about it is, number one, the freedom, because I'm really freedom oriented as a person anyway. And it's just my personality type. And I really like that I can give him the freedom too. And I kind of wish, I wonder sometimes what would have happened if I had been unschooled, like where I would have ended up, because it took me so long to realize what I really wanted to do with my life and what direction I wanted to go in. So I think it might have happened sooner. So I love that. I love the freedom with time and with his learning and deciding where he wants to go with his own learning. So, and I joined the board, I think, I don't know, was it 2 or 3 years ago, Judy?
Yeah.
I forget, but I joined the board a while ago because I wanted to contribute.
Awesome. Yes, and you do very much. Thank you. Thank you so much
you.
for that introduction. My 5 kids have home educated all the way through high school. Didn't think it would happen, but they wanted to. So we are doing a session on high school September 12th, just to capture a lot of kids that go the first week and decide they don't like it, they want to homeschool through high school. And so we're going to, if you have a student in high school, very definitely come to that session because it's focused on all your options. Online is not the only option out there. There are lots more options, and be sure to sign up for that one. Although we will take all your questions tonight too. Yeah. So how the format's going to work is I'm going to just briefly go through this PowerPoint stuff. I hope to take no more than 30 minutes. And then we'll open it up to your questions for an hour because we want to make sure that you get your questions answered. And I'm always amazed at what people ask, and I never think of looking at things that way, but they're very wonderful, valid questions. There's no silly questions. So write them down as we go. Be sure to ask them, and yeah, ask away. So, okay, let's start. I'm going to put the slidey show on here. There we go. Okay, first of all, I want to assure you that you are truly capable of home educating your child. You have done it all summer, I bet. July, August, you have been a home educator and you've had fun, I'm quite sure, unless you're in Kelowna or Fort McMurray. But if you've been vacationing with your child, you have been just being present in their lives the last 2 months, you are home educating, even though you don't actively get out there and open the curriculum and teach. You are. Everybody home educates from when their child is born until at least age 6. And then they hand it over to the government. Well, you're here tonight because you're thinking of taking it back, and you have everything you need. Most parents can teach to a grade 8 level without teachers' manuals. You can do it. You know a lot of the curriculum. And after grade 8, a lot of kids become very self-directed and take it on from there or with the help of tutors. So don't worry about that. It's important to know in Alberta, when you home educate, it doesn't mean you have to be the teacher. You are taking responsibility for your child's education, but you do not have to provide it yourself. You have a team. You can hire tutors. You can put them in co-ops. You can get your nanny to help out. Maybe your child can just self-teach through unschooling. You can put your child in courses that are in the online from the world, the US. Any of those are valid ways your child learns. So you're kind of like the general contractor. You procure your child's education from wherever you want to get it from. And you're not limited to government provided courses, which is fabulous. Now, grade 12, any child who wants credit in core courses to go on to post-secondary programs will have to write the grade 12 diploma exams. But those exams are only based on grade 12 content in the courses. So they just study up, write the exams, they're on their way to go and start businesses, go on to post-secondary. They're off and running. So that's kind of a good thing. Okay, I kind of told you about me a bit. I have 4 university graduates so far. Last one's going. I'm very happy that we homeschooled for that reason. And yeah, keep in mind, there's no silly questions, okay? We love teachers. Teachers are amazing. They do so much with what they can do. But for a lot of us, it's a system that needs improvement. We have tried to make changes from within the system, banged our heads against the wall, and we're desperate enough to just pull our kids out and look at other options. So every child learns. You can't stop a child from learning, and you can't force them to learn. Learning is a biological certainty. So these are a child's brain cells, these are neurons, and learning is taking place right now, whether, let's say, that child is reading a math book or that child is playing a video game. And learning is all about neurons connecting with each other with neurotransmitters across that synapse right there. This is learning in action. So when the news was during COVID, oh, kids are learning losses. Their learning's been impacted. What that meant was that children lost the government agenda. So they weren't getting what the government told them they should learn, but they certainly kept on learning probably new things all during COVID. So they were only behind in the government agenda, but they made leaps and bounds in areas such as reading and math and other content areas. So children learn whether you teach them or not. It just happens, and that's a biological process. So it's also important to remember that education is not where it takes place. As we know, not everybody was homeschooling during COVID. They were schooling at home. So education is more about who is responsible, who controls it, and who makes the decisions. So if you want to be in control, you want to be responsible, you want to choose home education. And most people don't stay at home. I like to call it community education. If you want to hand over the responsibility and give it to the school, you can do that too. But that's called school, classroom, or distance education. And distance education comes under a lot of terms, such as teacher-directed, paper-based resource, online learning, classroom. Those are all school. You have no decision-making, no control, no responsibility on those programs. That is school, but probably in your living room. Okay, so just be very aware of what program you're signing up for. This is often called, the home education is also called parent-led. This is school-led. So for the purpose of this presentation, home education is in green, school is in red, okay? Just so that you know the difference of what you're signing up for. I'm not going to go into our story. I'll just skip over this. Why do people choose home education? Lots of reasons. There are so many reasons, and they're very unique to each family. So we get parents who have a new baby and they decide they want to go travel, or they want to just stay off the grid, which is fine. We have parents pulling their teenagers out because of bullying. We have parents somewhere in the middle of babies and teenagers that are not very happy about what the child's learning and pull them out then. So there's lots of reasons, and they're all really, really good reasons. Okay. Does homeschooling work? Yes. I think the most objective measurement of homeschooling is diploma exam marks. The last time we could separate out the home education on a bigger scale was 2019, before COVID. And we found that the 138 students who were in home education wrote core subjects in grade 12 and got a mark of 74.6% average. And yet 306 students who went to the most expensive private school in Alberta got an average mark of 76.6. So for a 2 percentage point difference, that is remarkable, especially when you consider the cost difference to the taxpayers and the parents. Huge difference there. So yes, it does work. Okay, so where do people learn? Now, in school, by about age 4, when kids have, most of the classroom has learned to read, a lot of content is delivered through workbooks and curriculum. Why? Because it's the most efficient way to deliver to 30 kids. But you're not teaching 30 kids. You do not have to rely on paper-based curriculum. In fact, until your child is age 11, 12, they learn best through experiential activities. So things like movies, computer board games, mentorships, classes, field trips, volunteering, discussion groups, sports, venues of arts and museums and science. All these places offer very, very good programs, or even just self-directed learning through going and taking your child to these programs. Cynthia and Golda, jump in whenever you want and add stuff, please, if you want. Okay, so I think I kind of already said that. There's 2 ways to get an education. There's school and there's home or community, okay? Now, there's quite a lot of decisions you have to make. Sometimes it's easiest to just send your child off to school, figure out if you want to send them online or classroom and be done. But there's a few more decisions through homeschooling. As of 2020, we got this new option where before then we had to go supervised with a school authority. We had to. But then we got this new option where we just tell the government we're home educating and we're not going to be supervised, but we don't get funding either. And a lot of people want to do that. It's important that you know that this option is available all year. Even if your child's in a classroom or school, you can always pull them out to this all year. No applications. You don't have to ask permission. Just send the form in and you're done. You can do whatever you want for the rest of the year. So we do have that. And if you choose that for fall, you're done too. You just send that form in. You don't have to do any other thing until next year where you send the form in again. Now, if you decide not to go unsupervised, you have a few more things to do. You have to find a school board. That right now, for a lot of parents, is a lot of stress. I know. I get questions every day. And I'm going to say, for the most part, most school boards are very, very similar. Most of the popular homeschool boards have been doing it for years and decades. They are supportive. A lot of their facilitators have been doing it. They have lots of ideas in curriculum to help you out. And they're very supportive. They provide kind of a buffer between you and the government, which is kind of nice. The government would never contact you and say, I'm not too sure that Nintendo Switch is appropriate for home ed. And your board will go to bat on your behalf and say, oh, yes, it's used very much in these outcomes on the education plan, blah, blah, blah. So you might want that buffer between you and the government. Then you have to decide, are you going to go with a secular school board or a faith-based? And there are a lot of really good faith-based boards out there that don't require families to be faith-based. They will accept you. Now, they do all their correspondence in faith-based language, but that just goes with the the part and parcel, but they will accept families that are not faith-based. And then you have to pick a philosophy. What's your philosophy of education and learning? Would you rather do parent taught? Do you want to be the teacher? For me, I didn't want to be. Do you want to use co-ops or pods or micro schools, online courses that are not government courses? Or do you want the child to teach themselves through unschooling? So that's what you can do. And then you just send in a one to 2 page plan of what you're going to do this year. That plan is very flexible. It's work in progress. You can make changes anytime you want, all the way up to the last day in June if you want. And then, let's see this here. And then you have to decide, are you going to follow the 22 home education outcomes that have to be accomplished by the time your child's 20, which is really flexible and easy, by the way? Or are you going to follow the Alberta Programs of Study, which is the Alberta curriculum, which is about 1,400 outcomes per grade? You don't have to do that either. You can do whatever you want. You can do a mix of these if you want. And then you have 2 teacher facilitator visits a year, and that's it. You are done your obligations for supervised home education. And for that, you get $901 per child per year for reimbursement of receipts. Okay. And for those who like to unschool, which is unschooling is self-directed education, all the homeschool boards are supposed to support whatever you want to do. So they're supposed to support unschooling, but you also get facilitators who are human and they have their own biases, and sometimes they may not be as supportive as you like. So if you are a hardcore unschooler, be sure to ask your prospective school board, do you support unschooling? And you'd like a facilitator who would support you in that. Okay, we're not going to talk about history. Yeah, no. Okay. Flipping through these. So this is an example of the Alberta Programs of Study. So this is the outcomes if you want to follow the government school outcomes. I don't know many people who do. I think they want to follow the 22 other ones. So do I have those? Yeah, I'm just flipping through a lot of these things. Okay. One thing to keep in mind is online learning is not the best for kids under age 10, 11. This was a screenshot from the Alberta Education website before COVID. They recommended that in the field of online learning, few programs serve students younger than 10 years of age. Generally speaking, elementary students are not developmentally ready to succeed in an online learning environment. They would need a lot of support. Grades 7 to 9, they're starting to become independent learners. They're not there yet. And that's a good time to hand off more of that coursework and more of that accountability. But if you're considering online for your grade 1, maybe reconsider that. Home education might be better just because it can be more play-based and experiential. Okay, so I already talked about this, program choices. Myths, I'm not going to talk about that. Now, teacher directed and shared responsibility. Okay, so teacher directed or paper-based is school. It's kind of confusing because at school, whatever the paper resources are, they must teach your child entirely. Now that becomes a real problem when you have young children who can't read yet because it's on paper. So they kind of need a reader, and they're going to default to you as a parent because they need someone to read to them. And do you want that responsibility? It's kind of like homeschooling, except worse because you have to meet APS outcomes. Well, your child has to meet those. They have to do assignments and they have to meet deadlines. And if your child can't read, it's better to either go online where they are direct with a teacher or go home education where you get to decide, because young kids are not very motivated. Online is it's good for junior high kids, good for high school. Like I said, not very good for young children. Okay, so home education is where you control it all. You get to choose. That's very good for young children. It has the most flexibility. You can take a year off and go world schooling. You can unschool. You can do lots of amazing things. Now, we also have this thing called shared responsibility, and that is kind of part parent, part school. So the parent part follows the home education regulations, and same with home ed. You get to choose whatever you want to do. You can follow the 1400 curriculum outcomes or the 22 home ed outcomes. You can decide if you're going to assess, and you still get the funding. Oops, that should be 901. And then on the school part, it's all school controlled. So it's like school. They do the exams, they do assessments. There's no funding on that part. So it's half and half sometimes, but now it's been changed to, it can be an 80-20 split either way. So you could be 80% responsible and source out 20%. Maybe you don't like doing math. So you can say, school, you teach the math, I'll home ed the rest of it. Or maybe you like everything. Maybe you really want to do the math and you take on 20% and give 80% to the school. So it's up to you. And then you get a portion of that funding based on how much you're taking on. And it's important to know Alberta Ed, they will grant a diploma in all 3 programs. Your child can home educate, earn a high school diploma that's government-based. They can do it through online. They can do it through classroom. They can do it through shared responsibility. It will happen. So a lot of people say, oh, your child won't get a diploma. Oh, your child won't graduate. That's not true. Not at all. Not at all. Okay. I wonder if we want questions. How am I doing for time? Oh, I think I'm almost over. Okay, I'm just going to cover 5 more minutes and then we'll do questions. So one thing to remember is kids are like popcorn. When you pop popcorn, it doesn't all pop at the same time, right? You get those early poppers and then those massive amount of pops, and then the lingering pops. And kids are like that. They get concepts at different ages, different speeds, different development. And that's the beauty about home education is you can customize, personalize your program. So when your child gets it, they get it. You can take your time. You can go back to things later. You can skip over things that you don't want to go back to later. You call all the shots and your kids are eventually going to get it. It's wonderful, but they may be late poppers, right? So that's okay. That's good. Okay, and so just recapping on unsupervised, you just notify the government. You don't have to wait for acceptance. Don't wait around. If you do this on September 15th and you haven't heard by October 1st, just go, just homeschool any way you want. Don't wait. And there's no funding, no visits, no home education plan, no support, no credits for high school, and you have to notify the government every year. If you go with a school board, you have to notify the school board. They have 15 days to accept your child. That's business days. They will fund $901 in receipts. You have 2 visits with a supportive facilitator. She or he will help you with a written home ed plan. So maybe 1 or 2 pages of what you plan to do. And you get a lot of support and encouragement. Your child can earn high school credits through Section 6. And again, you have to do this every year. You have to notify and be accepted. Okay, so this is the notification form for unsupported home education. So it says here, not supervised. If you don't know your Alberta student number, don't worry, they'll put it in. This is the notification form for supervised. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And one thing that we always get questions on is this is part B in the supervised form. People want to know, do I check the outcomes achieved in the Alberta programs of study, or do I achieve the outcomes in the SOLO, which is the schedule of learning outcomes under home ed? We suggest do the bottom one because it's super, super flexible. And you can still do Alberta programs of study, but this is way more flexible on the time that you come for your spring visit. Okay, I would save your receipts from January 1st on. So definitely we're in August now, so save your receipts now. And there is now funding for home ed kindergarten. Some of the boards are charging fees to register for home education for kindergarten. There's enough boards out there that don't charge fees. I would suggest shop around. It's not like, and boards take people or children all the way up to September 28th, but please don't leave it for the last minute because you might not get in. They still need time to input that in the computer. So be nice to the boards and do it earlier. Okay, we talked about this, talked about that. Okay, how do you pick a board? These are things to consider. Big boards, they tend to be less picky with receipts because they have the economies of scale to absorb clawbacks from the government. Sometimes they have more activities just because they run a lot of programming for different parts of the province. The downside is sometimes they're very schooly and don't have a lot of training in home education. So maybe a lot of rules that are not in the regulations, but they put in because they are system-wide rules. The smaller independent schools is where 80% of home education takes place pretty well. They understand home education. They've been in the business for 35 years. A lot of the facilitators have graduated their own children through home education. They know what you're going through, how overwhelmed you are. They understand. They help you with flexibility. If you want to be left alone, they respect that. And they advocate to the government on your behalf if you want that Nintendo Switch funded. They often support unschooling because they've done it, and they give you lots of suggestions. So one board may not be right for everybody. In fact, I had 4 boards one year with 4 kids because each child needed something different from a different board. So I had 8 facilitator meetings. I had 4 submissions for receipts. It was a bit of a nightmare, but you do what you need to do for your children, right? So, okay. Now this is the 22 solo outcomes. So they're very broad. They're very vague. So this is English language arts, read for information, understanding, and enjoyment, write and speak clearly. So there's no assignments. There's nothing they have to do. If you want to buy things, you put them under resources and you list them along with your activities of what you're going to do here and how you're going to assess that your child is learning. That's all you have to do. This is the math one. Use math to solve problems in business, science, and daily life situations. It doesn't say you have to cover any particular curriculum. It's super vague, super flexible. Okay, so that's the 22 in Word kind of thing. Okay, your facilitator is a certified teacher. He or she might be a homeschooling parent, but they are your partner in education and they are there to support you. Whatever you need, you will get help. You can phone them up, email them, contact them through the year. Their fall visit, you get 2 visits a year. So your fall visit is you go over your plan and finalize curriculum. And then the spring visit, don't worry, there's no testing, there's no marks, there's no assessment on home education. Other oh, uh-oh. Thank you. But they, you're in the spring visit, your facilitator will come out and chat with your child and find out all the exciting things they've done. So there's no assessment of you or what you've done. I find it helpful to keep photos and videos because you're going to take photos anyways. When your child makes a beautiful picture out of macaroni and paint, you're going to take a picture of that so you can show it to your facilitator at the end of the year. Keep any certificates they get of online courses or they built those Home Depot projects. Keep a writing sample or two. And that's it. You don't have to give marks. You don't have to give assessment. There's no testing. There's no such thing as keeping up. Okay. All children, like popcorn, are at different stages of their learning journey. And wherever your child is, that's where they should be. That's okay. They do not have to keep up with a class average. It is not like school. At the end of age 18, most kids are in the same place. Okay, so at this point, I am choosing curriculum. I'm just going to say, you know what, start with the library and internet. There are fantastic things on there. Don't buy too much because if it doesn't work for your child, you'll be selling it next year in the curriculum sales along with everyone else. And like I said, most parents can teach up to grade 8. You guys are pretty smart. You can do this. You have lots to lend your child. Absolutely. And from grade 8 onward, what do? Kids can switch to online. They can stay at home ed and hire tutors. They can self-teach. There's great resources out there. My kids, 4 of my kids went into STEM pathways thanks to Khan Academy. Or you could put them in teacher taught pods too. There's lots of options there. But don't worry about that if you're not there yet. If you have a child in grade 1, don't worry beyond grade 1. Okay, so there's lots of other curriculum there. There's non-government classes. OutSchool has fantastic classes. And really, if your child hates them, you've only signed up for 1 hour, which is good. Try and think beyond workbooks, right? There's lots of ways to get hands-on materials. Okay, I am going to cut it there, I think. Wait, there's lots of stuff here. Okay, and like I said, assessment, beyond observation, you really don't have to do much assessment. I just took a lot of pictures. I kept these learning journals once a month, just that I knew I was going to write a book on unschooling, and I wanted to use these for references. This is an example of a year-end visit. So under home ed, and this is another reason to possibly go supervise with the board, is that you get this very legal document that says your child is progressing, okay? And it's signed off by a certified teacher. So if you're in a high conflict relationship where the other partner may not want to do home education, it's nice to have this backup for relatives that, I don't know about this homeschooling thing. It's nice to show them that, hey, my child was assessed at the end of the year and look how much they're learning. They're doing all these fantastic things. So this is what you'll get at the end of the year. And most of these comments are what your facilitator gleans in your year-end visit, in talking to you and your child and seeing some of the stuff they did. So that's good. High school's a different ball game. We're not going to go there. Okay, how much time does home education take? Not much. You're not teaching a classroom of 30 kids. And if you look at it like, how much time does it take to put on a dinner party for 20 people? A lot of time, prep time, cooking time, shopping, setting the table, and then the cleanup time. But how much time does it take to make a simple dinner for you and your child? Not much, right? So you're not going to take the same dinner party prep time and apply it to home education. It's going to go way, way faster. Now, if you have a child that dawdles, that may be a different story, but this is what I found with my 5 kids is even meeting outcomes for grade 12 for diplomas and government diploma. Grade 12 didn't take more than 2 to 3 hours a day, and that includes CTS courses, phys ed, and the core courses. So it didn't take that much time. A lot of homeschoolers don't finish a year, and we're human. We get distracted. People get sick. You get an opportunity for a holiday. You have company. Maybe a new baby comes. You get off the rails, and the next fall you start the next grade. Your kids keep on learning. They will keep on learning, and they will make up stuff they missed if it's important. Be sure to join a support group. There's a lot of local support groups in your communities now, and there's a lot of socialization happening for kids. Not all their friends come from school. There are a lot more diversity out there in groups and other places, so they will make friends. Okay, so there's lots of ways to get organized. Get on Facebook and ask people. Maybe we should do that again, is show pictures of your learning room. How do you get organized? I had this for all my admin through from grade 1 to university. I should clean it out sometime, but that really helped me keep everything together. Transcripts, student loans, all that stuff. We never really had a classroom like this in our house because we were unschoolers. So every room in our house was the room, but a lot of people like the more formal classroom, and it's all good. Any way that works for your family, that works for you, is really, really what you should do. Okay. Special needs help. There is help this year. You have to go to ASCA and see what they offer. They sometimes offer psych ed assessments. So, but there's no extra funding for you. Sorry. Anyways, go to ASCA. So, I know it's overwhelming. I know it's terrifying that first year. I was terrified. It's nice if you can find a mentor for the year. But remember, you're only signing up for a year, not a lifetime, and there's lots of support out there. And you just can't stop kids from learning. So you can't. They will thrive, they will learn, and you will have some fun this year. Yeah. And we all homeschool till age 6, all of us, everybody. So, questions.
I was also going to say it's only really terrifying the first year. I think it gets easier. I keep telling people that.
That's right. It's it's like parenting when you bring that baby home, right?
It's exactly like that. Yep.
You're terrified you're going to drop the baby and bad things are going to happen, and everybody gets through it, and you become more confident as you go along. So yeah. Okay, I think for questions, do we have any in the chat? Or if you want to, yes, I have a recording. I will post the recording. If you have questions, if you want to write them in the chat box, or just unmute and we'll talk. Got lots of experience here. Who's going to be our first question?
One of the questions is how to get outside resources like teachers do and like teachers do. That's one of the questions, Judy.
Okay,
And
outside resources like teachers do. So my understanding, and go to help me out here, is that teachers, they like they don't they pick and choose what they want to use in a classroom, don't they, to teach outcomes, because we're outcome based.
yeah, they do most of the time. Sometimes they have a really structured, depending on the school. I used to be a high school teacher, by the way, and a principal. That's how I know, in case anyone's wondering. But school teachers often will use things like the Learn Alberta resources. And you can have, most boards have like a passcode for the parent section. And then if there's something that you want on there that you can't get access to, your facilitator should be able to get access to it. Sometimes it takes a long time to download, but it is possible to get some of those resources off there through the facilitator if the facilitator signs up for being able to access it.
Right. Yes. So definitely get your password through your, and now this is, I'm sorry, but it's only available to supervised home education.
Yeah, it is, because you need a teacher to be able to do it.
Right. Yeah. So this is really helpful for high school. Like for example, let's go grade 12 science. I love this because I could get the real Bio 30 course that my student could self-study. And I bought the textbook, and there we go. There is the whole Bio 30 course for students. So, and it's all laid out in modules, and it's meant to go with the textbook with this. But this is one way if you really want free curriculum and to meet Alberta programs of study outcomes. The other thing we have too is on our website, we have a list of very popular homeschooling curriculum that people tend to really love. Now, if you want reviews on this, you go to Kathy Duffy's review page. And there's a lot of reviews. There it is, Kathy Duffy curriculum reviews. But these are popular curriculums for math that people like. And for English, these tend to be popular things. Being unschoolers, I've never done these because we just kind of started in high school. But other people talk about what they like on the Facebook groups too.
No. Try your hand.
One of the questions we got was about the Con Communications that ISCA run a support for disabilities, and I just wanted to say, like, I posted a link in there
Great.
for that. But it's basically you make an appointment and do an intake, and then they'll ask, then you can be provided with support once you do that first intake meeting. There's a home ed booking thing right on there where you can book online.
Right.
And then another question is, do you prefer being supervised or unsupervised? I wanted to do unsupervised. That was one of the questions, Judy. And I think we all have an opinion about that, but it's up to you, really. I mean, what I like about supervision is that I get funding. I like that funding. I picked a really great facilitator that's really easy to work with. And I know that if there was ever any questions in court or anything like that, then I would have her back, like she'd have my back, and she would write a report that, like, I know some facilitators will write a report for court, or they'll deal with social services if they ever get involved or things like that. That's why people go with supervision, is funding and that kind of legal support.
You're fine.
Do you agree, Judy?
Yeah, I would. I think, yeah, I know a lot of people philosophically don't like the oversight, and I don't look at it as oversight. I never felt like my facilitator was coming into my house and checking out how clean it was because it wasn't clean, or, checking to see if the kids had, lunch or whatever. I always felt support. And it's scary the first time you have a facilitator visit, and we'll run a workshop on that too. But it's your partner. And once you find a good facilitator, she's like your hairstylist. You're not going to let her go. You're going to follow him all wherever they change school boards, just because they know your kids and know a little bit about your family and how you do things and your philosophy. So I really like that support, and especially in the first 2 years when my child wouldn't do an assignment and we were behind, and we were at that point we were still doing school at home, and I would call them up and cry and say, he's not doing this, and they would say, oh, that's okay, don't force it, it's so normal, boys don't like to write, blah blah blah. So it was very, very helpful to have that person, be on your side.
I agree. And there's facilitators out there that aren't as supportive. And I know that because I hear some horror stories every once in a while, but there are, but a lot of them really are. And you're right. Like you pick a facilitator that's, I don't know. If you pick a facilitator that's going to have a bunch of requirements, that would be really uncomfortable. But most of us, a lot of facilitators, I mean, they are very freedom oriented, and they do not want to interfere. They don't. And they're very sensitive to the fact that some people might consider them support, and some people might consider any extra contact above and beyond those 2 visits to be interference. So I think you just have to pick one that's good, because there are good ones out there.
Right. And if you get a facilitator where you're a bad fit, I had 2 of them in my 23-year home education career, and I just politely asked them to leave, and I called up the principal and said, assign me someone else. And they did, and it was a better fit. So definitely you're not stuck with that person the whole year, for sure. Yeah. We have a question here. Is it possible to work full-time and educate? So Golda, what do you think?
Yeah, I work full time and I home educate, and I've been doing it since he was in grade 3. So, and I'm not a principal anymore, by the way. I do a different job now. And I know it's possible. It's just like anything else, like having the summer, for example, when your kids are home, you just have to arrange childcare if your children are too young to stay alone. It's the same thing. And when you're educating it at home, it's just a different type of schedule. And especially if you're unschooling, but even if you're not, if you're doing a traditional program, you can still just have them do it somewhere else, or you can do it at any time you want during the day. So it's flexible, right? Nobody's checking to see how many hours you've been homeschooling. And if they do, that's the wrong facilitator. Just FYI. Nobody's checking what time you're logging in or anything like that. That's not what we do. It's very flexible. It's to your schedule. You can learn anytime, anywhere. A lot of people travel, and that's their homeschooling. They're called world schoolers. And so there's a whole bunch of different ways to look at it. It's very freeing. It really is. We are very freedom oriented in home ed because we want that kind of freedom, like to be able to teach our children what we think is important, what's good for them, and not just what's in institutional learning.
Mhm.
And then that comes also with freedom of time.
Right. And I haven't worked full time, but I did work part time, and my husband was working out of town. So I found getting childcare was hard. In Alberta, generally, kids can start to stay home alone at age 10. But that depends on your knowledge of your child, whether, how responsible and how good they are at problem solving. But yeah, and I would have to say my kids watched a lot of videos and played a lot of video games while I was working or preparing to work. But I don't think that hurt them much. I think, as I said, they're learning new stuff. And we were unschoolers too, so they learned a lot through play and whatever they did to occupy themselves while I was at work. So yeah, it's very easy to do that. It's easy to unschool and work, and it's also easy to homeschool because it doesn't take a whole lot of time, even if you're doing a more structured
Yeah.
homeschooling program. Yeah.
There's a question here about location, if you have to choose a board that is in your location. And I think a lot of us either live rural or we don't live in a big city where there is a board. I'm in Medicine Hat, Alberta, and we don't, that I know of, I don't believe there's a local board here. So we've registered with Edmonton and even close to Calgary. And so our meetings just happen on video anyway, just across the miles, and which is so great that you know, that changed a lot in the last few years, that's possible. And then some parents may wonder, well, how do you get involved with that school or meet families and whatever? But just check your local Facebook groups. There's so many homeschool groups in local areas, even in rural areas, that, like Judy said earlier, there's co-ops that you can join. Some of them have field trips that they plan together so that you can, you know, participate in the group activities and skating events or picnics or whatever. So there's tons of stuff out there, even if your board is not local.
Yeah. And before COVID, they even like if you signed up with a board in Vermilion, you know, they would come to Edmonton, Calgary, I don't know, probably Medicine Hat, and they do 1 day special events a couple times a year so that you could sign your child up for activities and, you know, cover off certain curriculum outcomes if you wanted. Yeah, so they can travel too. So you do not, if you're in Edmonton, you do not have to go with Edmonton Public. You can go with a board in anywhere you want. In Alberta, you can't go in Saskatchewan or BC, sorry. But definitely Alberta, if they're willing to accept you. Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of nice. Gives you flexibility. Another question is, how does that work? Oh, okay. There we go. I think you answered that, Cynthia.
I think one of the questions was, do you have to follow the September to June model for teaching and government deadlines? And the only deadlines that are set are by you and the facilitator, and they're very flexible. Like some of them even work sometimes in July. So you don't have to teach in that time. You just have to. So the first visit is just like, what are you going to do this year? And then the second visit is, what did you do? So but you can teach whenever you want. You can teach whatever and whenever you want, or just let them unschool and just notice and then tell the facilitator what they did, or they can. It's really flexible. So there's no government deadlines. It's all set by you and your facilitator. And sometimes there's deadlines for the facilitator to get the report in. So they have to have that meeting by a certain time, but aside from that, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
And one thing you should be aware, if you don't hear from your facilitator until October, that's pretty normal. We're not like school where we start September 2nd, right? That was kind of jarring to me when I first started. I was like, oh, September 2nd, we have to start. I haven't connected with my facilitator. And I realized how much more relaxed it is. And I found that we got so much done during the summer because we weren't running to activities, and we, you know, all the books were back at the library that the schools had given back. So we had a lot of resources, and until you're in high school tends to follow September to June model just to catch the diploma exams.
Yeah, that's true.
But even then, it's flexible. Like your child who's in grade 9 could start working on like science 10 credit and then save up all their work. And then when they're in grade 10, they could find a board to report the credit and get get the marks and credits on a transcript. So there's even flexibility there on timing.
There's a couple of questions from the same person, and so I'm gonna read them both. And the first part is, how can you manage working full-time and unschooling or homeschooling? My daughter has had numerous issues in her past year, and homeschooling is the best option, but I still have to work. And then the second part of that question is, do you think having my daughter in daycare during my shifts would have a negative impact on her if her classmates leave in the morning to go to regular school? And I want to make sure to make the best decision for her. So, and that says something that other people were interested in hearing the answer to as well.
Okay. Okay, during shifts. Okay.
And you're the child development expert, Judy, so I'll let you answer this one.
I'm not too sure how old your daughter is, but I think kids really don't mind. The thing about children when they're home ed is they don't know what school peer pressure is like. So I belong to a babysitting co-op, and when I had to work, I had to do classes for Alberta Health. So I would drop my kids off at a babysitter's, and their kids had gone to school. So my kids wouldn't have anyone to play with. They just have to sit and play by themselves. But they totally understood that that's how it worked for them, that they had childcare. And it didn't impact them at all. So it wasn't a negative thing at all. So we would all leave together in the morning. I dropped them off, picked them up. It wasn't a big deal at all. It was more for me when they reached the age of 10, I was a little more worried about leaving them home alone, but they seemed to work it out okay too. Actually, what I did was when my kids started babysitting the siblings, about age 11, I got them to take the babysitting course, and then I put all the kids in charge. So they would have to all cooperate, not the youngest, not the oldest, but all of them. And yeah, that worked out well too. So it's definitely doable for sure. And I don't think it has any negative impact on kids whatsoever.
Hello, can I ask my question?
Sure.
So I have several questions. My first question is, I have a daughter who is 7 years old. I'm wondering, I want to take her to for homeschooling because academically she's too good. So I'm wondering if it's possible to skip the classes during homeschooling.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
She does not have to go to school.
Yeah.
She could learn at home. If you want to teach her, if you want her to learn on her own, there's many ways she's going to learn. She can work ahead if she wants. Yeah, absolutely. It's very flexible.
Yeah, I teach her myself. She's in grade one. She was in grade one, but now she almost done grade 3 books.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
yeah,
Wow.
so that's why I was wondering to take her home for homeschooling.
Yes, yes.
And also, second question is, she used to go to Eric Harvey, but my other kids used to go TLC. I'm wondering if I can put to that program, Traditional Learning Center. So where do I have to go? How can I connect? I don't know, because it's my first experience.
If you want to, if you want to put, I think you would have to register your child for the Traditional Learning Center.
Oh, there, okay.
Yeah, and do it before classes, which is now school start, I think around September 1st. So you got to do it right away that it may be hard because they're a school of choice. So they
Yeah.
may not have room.
Uh-huh.
If siblings are there, oftentimes they do find room.
No, they're old enough. Her siblings are old enough, so they used to go long time ago.
Oh, I see. So if you pull her
Yeah.
out to homeschool, can the siblings still go?
No,
No.
my question was, I'm sorry for confusing you. My question she is in Eric Harvey School,
Yep.
but for me, I don't like that style of teaching in Eric Harvey, but I like teaching style in TLC, Traditional Learning Center, which was in Brantford School.
Right.
So that's why I'm wondering to put her in that school board education. I don't know. I'm confusing. How does it work? There are boards, right?
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit about boards, because I'm a little bit confused.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I think the Traditional Learning Center is through CBE. So, but they are a program of choice. So they do have limits because everybody wants to get in there.
Yeah.
We have limited availability. I don't know how they allocate those seats, whether it's a lottery or
Yes, it is in lottery, based on lottery.
yeah. So you can try and get your daughter in there for this year. I think it's probably too late, but
Yes,
no,
but I'm not sure if they have homeschooling.
no, they don't.
Yes, then I'm looking for only homeschooling.
But you could put her on their waiting list for next year and then homeschool this year.
So if you're looking just for homeschooling though, you can pick any board and you can advance as fast as your daughter wants to or can. That's what you're looking for, right? You're looking
Yes.
to be able to advance her. And I know of children who have taken university courses in grade 5 through massive open online courses. They can't register, but they can take those massive open online courses and gain the knowledge. So you can progress as fast as you want, and you can pick any board. And by board, I mean like a school that supports homeschooling, and they call them boards because they're run by either boards of like a school board with trustees, or they're run by a board of directors. So you can pick any in the province. I would choose a facilitator and a board that would be supportive of your goals. I think most of them will, by the way. And then you can progress her as fast as you want. And she won't,
Okay.
her grade
Yeah.
won't change in the student information system in Alberta. Like her grade will say that what it's supposed to be according to her age, but she
Yeah.
can do the work of any grade she wants.
Okay.
I think that's what you were looking for. Is that right?
Yes, it is right. And okay, I tried to call for several facilitators that I found on internet, but it was wrong number. From where do I have to start for registering her?
Yeah, you first have to pick a board, and right now the screen is showing the boards. We have that on the Alberta Homeschool Association page, all the boards
Okay.
and the links to them, and then you can decide which one you want, like what aligns with your values. And then you can call them, or sometimes you can find facilitators that are advertising themselves on Facebook, like on the, I don't think they do that on, I'm not sure that actually that they're not really allowed to do that, are they, Judy? But they often make comments under people's questions on those Facebook pages.
Okay.
I would
So
maybe even
yeah.
suggest if she's moving from Eric Harvey to
Yeah.
the CBE, go to the CBE homeschooling. I know they're still taking people at homeschooling. So on the screen you can see my pointer at CBE.
Yeah. Okay.
You just Google CBE home education and it'll tell you how to register her in that.
Okay.
And that way, she's in the same division if you want to get her in the learning center later, the traditional learning center later. It just, you know, I don't know. You don't have to go with CBE. You can go with anybody on this list, but if you want to start somewhere.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And where can I find this list?
It's on our website. It's you know what? I'll put it in the chat box. How's that?
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Um,
Yes, I found actually this about this lessons or program. I don't know how to call from Facebook.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Great.
And
Thank you very much.
that's really good because you know your daughter could like she could be done high school by 16 if she wants to work.
Yeah, exactly. She's learning too fast, and I've been interested in teaching her as well. I'm not a teacher at all, but yeah, it's going well, so that's why I'm interested.
Everybody's a teacher. Everybody's a teacher. I know you think that I'm a certified teacher, and I know that people think that teachers have some secret knowledge about how to teach kids, but that's not actually what we learn in teachers college. We
Yeah.
learn how to manage large group of children. Basically, it's not what you think. So I think you could have confidence that you're going to be able to teach your daughter, because we all taught our children lots of things, like how to use the toilet, how to eat, how to speak. Like, we're all teachers.
Yes, by teacher means I mean like patient. I don't have
Oh,
patience
yeah.
at all.
You know what? I was a high school teacher for years, and I have far less patience for my own child than I did for those kids. I
Yeah.
understand what you mean.
Yes, yes.
They can
Yeah.
drive us
Thank you very
crazy.
much.
You're welcome.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's fine. We wanted to answer questions, so.
Someone,
Yes.
oh,
Hi there, I
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
question.
no,
This is Holly.
hi.
Hi. Um, so I'm in Grand Prairie, Alberta,
Yep, hi.
and my two kids go to a Catholic French immersion school. My daughter's going to be going into grade 1, and my son is into grade 3. So at this stage, he's been doing only French and will be just incorporating English into like reading and writing, spelling. So if I were to pull him out and do homeschool, it's like he would be, I guess behind in English because he's only been doing French for 2 years. So I'm trying to find a board that would be aligned with what I want. But it looks like if I do like a wisdom board is a board, I would have to use their resources. Like, is that correct? Like, I would have to use, like, if I wanted to do units for both my kids because they're so close in age, and then source out like a math program,
Yeah, you can do
I
that.
would have to use
No,
their curriculum, and they
No.
would be my board. I that's where I'm a bit confused because it looks like I have to pay for their curriculum
ah,
on
okay.
their website.
You don't, you don't have to use you don't have to use their curriculum. You can use your own. With all of
Okay.
the boards in Alberta, they'll allow you to use your own curriculum. They provide that paid curriculum because people wanted it, but you don't have to use it.
I see.
Yeah.
So I could submit a plan to them using whatever curriculum I find. Like there's one that's Gather Round, which is again kind of a unit learning for all ages, so it would be, you know, reasonable to purchase. But it doesn't include math, so I would have to source out, you know, some sort of a math program separately. You know, is there a STEM math program out there that does online,
Oh,
or not online, but
there are
sorry,
so
homeschooling?
there are so many programs for math. There's lots.
Mm-hmm.
Gather Round's an excellent program. People really love it. Yeah, there, Judy just brought up on the screen all the math.
I don't have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and that's just a small snapshot to not overwhelm new people, because there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of math programs out there, and you can pick any of them. And all of the school boards in Alberta that support homeschooling will allow you to pick your own curriculum. It's part of the reason people homeschool.
Or not. I mean, and if you're an
Yeah.
unschooler, you don't have to use any curriculum either that's paper-based. So
Yeah,
um,
that's
yeah.
true.
So
And then,
you can
sorry, and then just to add on to that, and then to incorporate a second language, you know, would there be options, like you say, that there's groups and co-op programs? Is there, yeah, some sort of a, you know, but then it would be something I would want to attend, you know, almost like a class where, you know, I wouldn't be teaching the French because I'm not French immersion myself. You know, how do I find resources in Grand Prairie for these?
I know that's hard. Actually, I live close to you, right? Up in Girouville, which is near Peace River, kind of north. I'm an hour and 40 minutes north of you, and I know people down there homeschooling, and it is difficult to find in Grand Prairie. What other people have done is they pick a second language course that like maybe not for kids. They'll go to a second language course if there's one being offered, especially at the Polytech, the GRPC, the former GRPC college. Sometimes they offer second language courses, and sometimes if you ask, they will let the children attend, but it is hard to find, to be honest. We use online resources mostly for second language. And it's extremely difficult to find French if that's the language that you're thinking of.
Yeah.
But that being said, like if they ever wanted to take their DELF exams, I know a lady that does that. So she's from Girouville actually, and she does the DELF exams, and you can get registered with them through your school board, whoever you pick, if they're willing to go and figure out how to get you in there if they ever wanted to take their DELF exams, because somebody did that a couple of years ago.
I don't know what a DELF exam is.
It's the French language competency exam. People want it so that they can take French in university sometimes. So kids start them, I think, in grade 4 or 5. They start taking their French exams. But if that's the language you're talking about, then there are resources in Grand Prairie. It's just, it is very difficult to find, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there are second language courses on things like OutSchool and other paid programs. So if they get interested in the language, there are, and you can pay someone on, like, I think there's second language learners on that, or second language courses that you can pay for, where they do all their sessions on Zoom, and then, you know, on, I think things like Fiverr, they offer second language courses. There is lots of online resources, but in person it's hard to find.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want to add too that we have French resources on our website too, because a lot of that has been a gap where, you know, the beauty is you don't have to use homeschool board's curriculum, but the bad side is they don't provide any French curriculum either. So you have to find it yourself. So there's here are some resources from parents who wanted to keep up French immersion through home education. And the other option is grade 7 is still an entry point too to French immersion. Like you might want to consider just pulling them out now and then seeing how it goes, and then, you know, maybe put them in grade 7. And I want to assure you, I pulled my son out of French immersion in grade 2. And during high school, he really loved German. He wanted to learn German, and he self-taught himself German enough that he now lives and works in Germany. So if kids really, really want to learn a language, it doesn't just happen in the early years. It can happen, at least until age 30 when the brain really solidifies. So it's not a lost thing there.
Yeah, I learned ASL when I was 23, I think. You can always learn a new language, but there are lots of ways to do it. It's just hard. Hard to find resources up here in the north.
I have a question here that came privately, just to myself, and it just says, my child is 7, going to be in grade 2. She wants to go to public school. She attended kindergarten and grade 1 at public school and isn't happy with the idea of doing homeschooling. Any advice on how to handle this? I want to transition to homeschooling due to some ideas and concepts that are being taught in school that I do not agree with.
That's a tough one, all right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what I would say as another parent is that you really, like, it's like anything. Sometimes you have to make decisions that your child's not happy about. I have a 14-year-old, so that's like a major theme in our house right now. But I guess in the end, it's really up to you, because it's a hard decision to make. And a lot of people are homeschooling for the reason that you just mentioned too.
Yeah. And you know what? You can sell it to them by saying, it's only for a year. Let's try it out.
That is true.
My
That's good,
kids
Judy. That's
really
so
wanted
true.
to homeschool, so I was like, they dragged me into it more than I dragged them. But yeah, it's only for a year. But yeah, I don't know. Give it a go. We had a question, is there funding for preschool? And I'm sorry, but no. None.
No. We finally got funding for kindergarten. This year is the first year. And that was a really hard sell for the Alberta Ed minister. And now we finally have it. So
Well, it's
maybe
still a pilot, so
yeah, I know. But they won't. They'll make people mad if they take it away, so they won't.
yeah,
They're trying to gather support, not give it away.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
My personal preference is not unschooling, although I appreciate it. I come with an education background also from high school. Our kids are only in preschool, so we've got some time to think about it. So I just want to go back to the wisdom comment. So a lot of these boards will have like a set following Alberta Ed curriculum, but you can still put the SOLO document through. Is that, am I understanding that correct? Like you can put the solo your plan through on solo, but then follow mostly the units from Alberta Education. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. Yes, you can. So so what you would do is, if you check off on the form that you want to meet Alberta programs of study outcomes, you actually don't even have to do a home ed plan. So that lets your facilitator know, it helps her help you plan what you're going to do according to the outcomes. So like grade 2 science, you would meet those science outcomes the government says to meet. But the board doesn't have curriculum. The board will suggest curriculum that would meet those outcomes, but you have to go buy it yourself, or you have to procure that yourself. And then at the end of the year, then your facilitator knows that, oh, you wanted to follow the Alberta programs of study. And then she would say, oh, well, okay, how did you meet this science outcome? And then she writes her notes from there. So yes, you can absolutely do that if you want.
And that's still where the home gets the $901, or would the school be getting the 901?
You need to buy that curriculum.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
on home education, you can unschool and still get the reimbursement funding. It's just that we buy Lego instead of curriculum paper.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's yours. If you're on home ed, you get funding under supervised. Yes. Does that make sense?
It does. And then are there certain boards, like it seems like there's some boards that excel in certain areas of homeschooling. Is there boards that are more directed to following the Alberta curriculum versus unschooling? Or is that just kind of research it and figure it out?
There is although boards are supposed to support whatever you want to do, right? That's supposed to be mandated in the Education Act, but there are some boards that are more slanted to paper and pencil type of homeschooling. I know Center for Learning at Home, their principal told me we're a paper and pencil board and we don't like unschooling. So, it kind of helps to know that if you're an unschooler, or know that if, but I don't know, like I've been with 10 boards and I found that it all depends on your facilitator more so than the board and their personal views. So if whatever board you pick, just say that I really want to follow the Alberta programs of study, so that they'll pair you up with someone who really knows what's in the programs of study for the grades your kids are in and can help you pick out curriculum that meets that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. How are we doing? Did we answer everything?
I think we did. Yep.
Awesome. It is 8:30. How's that?
Perfect.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we're offering this again mid-September, so one more time before the deadline date. So I just want to share, there's so many wonderful, wonderful benefits of home education. Lots of them here. I'm not going to read them out, but there are a lot of benefits. There's a few drawbacks, nothing's perfect. I think the big one was for us is spending a lot of money on gas driving around to activities. But it's a trade-off, right? What you really want and what you really value. So there's lots of good things. Hey, anything else you want to add, Golda and Cynthia?
No, I don't think so. Thank you,
No,
Judy, for
should be
putting
Good,
this
this is
on.
awesome.
All right.
Yes, thank you. So
Well,
good.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming out and spending this evening with us. And again, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask us. We're on the Alberta Homeschooling website. You can contact us through email. Cynthia takes a lot of questions from people. I get Facebooked a lot. So there's definitely ways to contact us if your question is very private and you just don't want to share it here. That's okay. And good luck. You are going to have a fantastic year. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. So go for it. Go do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to sign off. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks for coming.
Good night.